Welcome to Hunting Faith. I'm Jacob. I'm your guest host for this episode as we dive into the heart of this podcast and the man behind the mic, Hunter. We'll explore Hunter's story, his vision for Hunting Faith, and what he hopes listeners will gain from joining this journey.
It honestly, it is a little surreal. Like, I know you and I talked about getting something started when I was back in Raleigh, and now that I'm in the UK and it's a whole nother year, we're actually like doing it. Like, it's it's mind blowing thinking about where I was and where God has taken me. And I hope that just like as we go along the journey together with this podcast, like, and we have more and more people talking about how a relationship with God has done similar things for them, that it can help bring people to just be curious enough to want that relationship and want that life change, and to hear from real life people about the positive impact it's had on them. Hopefully it has a positive impact on the people listening.
All right, let's get into it. Hunter, can you tell us about your personal journey with faith and what led you to Jesus?
So I grew up in the southern United States, very much in the heart and center of the Bible Belt. And so I've always kind of known about Jesus and known about God, had some semblance of faith, but it was very much felt more like a religion than like an actual relationship with him. And then after losing my little brother at 12, well, when I was 12, and just because of a bunch of things that were going on afterwards and a lot of stuff that was happening like in the world, really started questioning things. A lot of common questions that a lot of people have of like, why is there so much suffering and pain in the world if there is a God? Like typical questions that most people would come to at some point in their life. And kind of started to walk away from my faith. And then started to battle depression and anxiety, um, up to and including wanting to take my own life at 16, and had a profound interaction with the Lord where he basically like came to me in a dream, and uh, I saw like the old oil lamps that you would like turn the dial to intensify the flame in my chest as he like reached into my chest and it was about to go out, and he basically turned it all the way up and was like, I'm not done with you yet. And I woke up that morning and like regave my life to God and Jesus and was like, but I believe. Like, I don't know what else to do other than to believe at this point. And so continued on that. Go ahead.
That was at 16?
Yeah, that was at 16.
That was okay. Cool.
So 16 is kind of when I came back to being a believer and wanting to like pursue being a Christian. And shortly after that, I got told by one of my teachers that I went to for some advice that he basically, through his faith, tries to be the change that he wants to see in the world. And that really stuck with me. And so I spent the majority of my late teenage years just trying to be that change that I wanted to see in the world. Started living a pretty decent life, graduated high school with honors, started going to college full-time, working full-time, playing semi-pro football, and then ended up tearing my ACL, lost my funding for school, was out of work for 6 months recovering from the surgery. About that same time, all of my family kind of like moved away, and I felt very alone and isolated, and fell back into another battle with depression. And right as I was begging to like give up and take my last breath, the Lord came to me again and turned the flame on the lamp back up. But this time he turned it so much that the knob broke off. So there was no turning it off again. And honestly, that was the last time I really struggled with depression. And that's when I really started to like pursue him and just like get to know what all it was about. Started looking to get into church again. Bounced around from church to church for several years, and then at 25 I got out of a really bad relationship that I probably shouldn't have been in the first place, and saw myself going down similar path that led to depression in the past. And I was like, Lord, if you just take me off of this path, I will do whatever you want me to do. Like, take me off this path. Basically trying to like barter with him. And he came to me in a dream that night and was like, that's not really how it works. I don't give you something and then you do good and like then you come to me. No, like you come to me and then good things happen. And he basically showed me two versions of myself. The first one was who I was going to become if I continued living the way I wanted to live and like living for the world. And that version of me absolutely terrified me. And then he showed me another version of myself that was someone I always dreamed of becoming, but didn't see how I could. And he basically very simply was like, which one of these do you want to be? And I was like, well, obviously that, like the shining example of what a man should be. But I was like, I don't know, like there's no way this man standing before you becomes that. And he was like, well, that's who I made you to be. That's who I created you to be. That's who I see you as. If you want to become that, trust me and let me guide your steps. And so that's when I've like fully committed to that relationship with him and um, just letting him lead basically. Psalm 143:8 is like my verse that like pinpoints that moment in my life, and it's a very terrible paraphrase of it, but it's essentially, show me your unfailing love in the morning, for it is in you that I trust my life. Guide my steps, because I have given my life to you. And I've kind of been living that out for the last 4 going on 5 years now. Spent 3 years still struggling to find a church, but was very much in that like one-on-one relationship with him. And I'm honestly kind of glad that I had that time of it being just me and him, because it allowed me to work on that relationship with him and have like a solid foundation before I like went into a community. And then I was at work and a friend of mine was talking up her church that she had started going to, started inviting me probably in like January. And I was like, no, that church sounds like not my cup of tea at all. I was so used to like the structure of like a Southern Baptist church, and that was kind of what I was looking for again, but one that felt like home and felt like it was a community, not just somewhere where people gather on Sundays. But eventually I caved and was like, you know what, let me go check it out. She talks about it all the time. Obviously is doing something right, because she's like taking steps in the right direction and growing from the person that I knew her to be several months ago. So I went middle of February of 2024 to Freedom Church in Raleigh, and immediately felt the welcome, passionate love of the people there, and immediately knew it was home. Started going every Sunday, went through Growth Track, which is their like intro into the church. You get to know a bit about the story of the church. You get to know a bit more about yourself, some of your spiritual giftings that you might not know you had, a bit of your personality type, and then how you can like step into serving the church. Finally got baptized in April, because unfortunately when I left the church that I went to growing up, it was just before I was old enough to get baptized. And so I spent 20 years looking for another community, another group of churchgoers to call family, and felt like family, to actually do my baptism in front of. Because when I did my baptism, I wanted it to be around people that were going to be a part of my life and a part of my future. Not just some like random congregation of people where I was like, I'm getting baptized here. I wanted it to be in front of people that I knew would keep me accountable and help me grow. And so, yeah, finally got baptized April of 2024. And then went to an event that they do every year called the Cave, which is just this like massive worldwide, because at this point where the church is in 5 different nations or 5 different continents, where like all of the leaders and potential leaders come together and kind of get a vision for the year to come. And it was at that a familiar call that I had felt when I was younger, going to church, of like wanting to go on missions and plant churches and help build God's kingdom. And that led to me signing up for their leadership program, which sent me over here to the UK, where I've been living for the last 5 months. Absolutely loving it. I'll be here for another 5 months, and then who knows, maybe a few years after that. But that's where I'm at, and kind of along the journey, when I was somewhere between 8 and 10, I started to notice that I was very different from the rest of my peers as far as like the way I thought, the things that I focused on, the way I behaved, just the way I interacted with people was very different. And then come to find out at 25-ish, 26, and shortly after I like fully committed to letting God lead my life, he led me to taking the autism quotient test, and I found out that I was on the spectrum. So it made life significantly easier, because rather than spending basically for the first 25 years of my life, I spent my life trying to fit into the world and trying to like do what I thought was normal. Whereas now, like since discovering I'm on the spectrum, it's more of a I'm fitting the world to me instead of me fitting to the world. And it's made life significantly easier. It doesn't take nearly as much energy to like try and fit in and be normal. I can just be me, and it's knowing who I am has made it a lot easier to just be me and get over a lot of the things that I struggled with growing up, like confidence, self-worth, doubts, feeling like I wasn't enough. And it's amazing how, as I found more of my identity in Christ, the more I found my like true identity of who I am, rather than trying to be what other people expected me to be or what I thought other people expected me to be. It just became a lot easier to just be me.
Very cool. It's a lot easier for you to be you than anybody else.
And for people that have been hurt by religious people and people that have claimed the faith of Christian but didn't necessarily live it out the best way, I want to be the first to apologize, because that is not how it is taught in the Bible. That is not how Jesus lived. Jesus literally said that he came for the lost and the broken. When he was asked about why he eats with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, he goes, a doctor doesn't heal the people that are perfectly healthy. No, he goes and finds the people that have broken legs or are sick and heals them. And very much in that same regard, Jesus has come to help us heal from all of the stuff that the world has done to break us. And one of the things that stuck with me throughout my entire life is do not judge, for how you judge you will be judged. Yeah. All those people that have been hurt in the past, like just know that it doesn't matter how far you've gone, it doesn't matter what you've done. If you make that choice to allow Jesus to move in your life and to pursue that relationship with him, you will be amazed at what he can do. And that's not to say that everything's going to be all like sunshine and rainbows for the rest of your life when you start that relationship with him. There are going to be trials, there are going to be tribulations, there is going to be valleys and pits, but there's also going to be hills and mountains, and it's going to be ups and downs, but he is the God in all of it. He is the God in the mountains, he is the God in the valleys, and he is someone that you can always lean on, and he will always get you through.
There's no story in the Bible where it's a chosen one of God. Let's go disciples. Peter. His story starts good, and then he gets to walk on water, he gets to do all these sorts of things, he gets to see Jesus do these miracles, and then he denies him 3 times.
And you can even go back a little bit further to, like you said, yeah, he walked on water, but he only got a few steps of walking on water before he started to look around and see the things that the world was telling him, and he started to sink because he lost his focus and he didn't keep his eyes on Jesus. He lost his faith for that split second, and it caused him to sink.
Yeah. Yes. And then after that, he denies Jesus those 3 times. And then after that, God says, I think it's after, he says that I'm going to build my church upon this rock, the rock being Peter, which that's is a huge curve. That's a roller coaster right there.
Yeah.
And if Peter, a disciple of Jesus, has that kind of roller coaster, he's not going to stop your life. He's not going to stop and be like, I can't save this one. I can't do that because their life is too much of a roller coaster. No, he created that roller coaster.
And part
He
of it
knows
is to
how that
build
roller
your
coaster ends.
character,
Yes.
because perseverance or endurance builds character, character builds wisdom. And so I would say, if you have had a life of constant struggle and constant challenge, I know this is going to sound very patronizing to some people, but the harder the fires of refinement are, the more pure the product. So the more things you've gone through in life and the more things you've learned to go through in life, especially if you're going through them leaning on him, the more character you get from it, and the more he's going to end up using you to make an impact in others' lives. And oftentimes, you won't get to see that impact.
If you want to have a bad day, in the comments, tell us I want to have a bad day, and we'll make sure that you're not having a bad day.
It's so great. And like, I'm looking forward to, even if just like one person gets saved and comes to know Jesus and comes to have that relationship with him off the back of listening to this podcast. Like, for me, that's a win. That is mission success. Obviously, I'm going to enjoy it regardless because I get to sit here and pick people's brains for an hour or so, 30 minutes, however long it ends up being, and just having that like one-on-one intentional conversation with people, getting to know them a little bit better, getting to know some of their story, getting to hear how God has moved in their lives is one of my favorite like things to do. And the idea of doing it on a weekly basis just excites me, and getting to hear from someone new each week of how God has literally transformed their lives is something that I'm looking forward to with the biggest smile on my face.
It's gonna be a little crazy for us, especially on the back end. I've never done it, but having to like contact people weekly and edit things weekly, that's full-time job almost. And I'm
Yes,
excited. I'm
yes it
excited
is.
because like I said, I've never done it, and that it might be pretty fun. So it
But
will be pretty.
also,
Yes, we did talk about that. I think it was
okay,
last week.
we've
I
talked
don't
so
remember.
much about this, man, and
Yeah,
about getting
we
it
have.
going.
It's
And
been
like, I'm so
a fun
glad we're
one.
finally doing this, because obviously talking to people in Raleigh, just like after church or in events outside of church or even just hangouts outside of church, the number of people that were like, oh, you should start a podcast. Oh, you should start a podcast. Oh, you should start a podcast. And I was like,
Mhm.
all right, fine, let's like see where it goes. And then it just like fizzled because I wasn't actually like in it or anything. And then we were talking about Moses the other day in Academy, which is the church's like leadership training program that you go through so that you can help them go out and plant churches, because we're hoping to have 72 churches planted by 2027. And so hopefully in the next couple years, you'll hear me announcing on here saying, hey, guys, we're packing up and moving to such and such place to go help plant a church and bring Jesus to people that have never known him. But we were talking about the character of Moses, and so we were talking about like Moses's unwillingness and how even when we're unwilling, God still wants to use us. And when we were talking about it, they asked the question like, what is one thing that God has been calling you to do that you've been unwilling to do? And it took a while for me to even come to an idea of like what I was unwilling to do, because um like I left the States in Raleigh, where they're also hosting an academy thing. So this entire course program that I'm on out here in the UK, I could have done in the comfort of my home in Raleigh, but he told me, like, no, you need to go do it in the UK because when we lost my little brother, I made the decision to be that like extra support system for my family, and for a long time had been like a main pillar of support in my family. And it was one of the few things that I still hadn't like fully surrendered to him. And he was like, one, you need to go to the UK so that I know you fully surrendered them to me. And two, you need to remove yourself as that support so that I can come in and fill that space. They need me as support, not you as support. And so, like, there's all these things that I've been willing to do in the last year or so. And it was like, what have I not been willing to do? And then he really convicted me, and he was like, yeah, but what about that podcast I told everyone to tell you to start, that you even recorded half an episode and then didn't do anything with it? Like, and the follow-up question was, what's been holding you back? And one of the big things that had been holding me back was a lack of confidence and feeling like I needed a co-host or somebody else to do it with, and that I couldn't just be a solo host, which he's worked a lot on that confidence over the last few months, up to and including like me getting on stage in front of 140 some odd people and sharing some of my poetry that I've written, which never would have happened a year ago. I'd have told you you're crazy. But he fixed the confidence, so I was like, all right, I can do it, but I also still don't have a name for it. And so we were given some time to pray about it afterwards. And as I was praying about it, he was like, so you're still hung up on the name, huh? And I was like, yeah, like, what am I going to call it? And he was like, Hunting Faith. I told you, you're a hunter. Because not only is my name Hunter, but much like Jesus took fishermen and made them fishers of men, the Lord is using me to hunt men. Men as in like humans, not just men, but hunt them and hunt the people that need help, need to be saved, hunt the ones that are lost in the darkness, just wandering around, and be that light that helps point them back home. And so I'm hunting faith in the sense of I'm hunting for the people that need faith. And so like when it just made way too much sense for the name Hunting Faith when he gave it to me, and I was like, why did I not think of this on my own? And like, Jacob, you know all the different names that we went through when we were talking about it in Raleigh, and none of like, they were all right, but none of them were like, that's the one.
That's the one. Nah, nope. It was a long battle trying to find one.
So yeah, that's kind of what led me to actually really want to get this thing started and rolling. And over the last several weeks, you and I have put in a lot of work to get to even this point here. Over the last like 2-3 weeks ish, we've done quite a bit of work to get even to here, recording the prologue episode of just like getting to know me and getting to know what the podcast is about before we actually start the podcast. But I am so looking forward to the fruit that comes off the back of this, and I hope that as we plant these seeds for people, that you end up having people put in your life that can water those seeds and help prune the plant when it needs to be, so that you can bear fruit and then go and plant those seeds into other people, and that it's just a ripple effect. Because I want to use this platform to help grow God's kingdom and have as many people as I can come to know just how life-changing a relationship with the Lord can be, and understanding, hopefully bringing you to the understanding that it is a relationship, it's not a religion.
Yep. I like that. I mean, I've always liked that, not just because you said
The course of like getting all this going and getting to the point of actually recording episodes, it's just been weighing on my heart of just wanting to help people and really be that world changer that I've felt called to be since a young age, and that hopefully through listening to this podcast, as we bring you real stories from real people and very like practical steps to grow your faith, or understand the Bible, understand Jesus and his message, that like it can either one help you deepen your relationship with him if you're new to faith, or like have been religious and want to know what that relationship is, or if you've never had a religious background or wouldn't consider yourself very religious, if we can bring you to being curious to want that relationship with the Lord and that like life transformation that comes with it. It's just something that would make my heart soar. I just love people, always have, always will, and knowing how much God loved us makes it that much easier to love the people that he creates. And somebody a few days or weeks ago, I don't remember exactly when, but I was chatting with somebody and they were saying something along the lines of, there's a little bit of God in everyone, and that's who you should be speaking to, rather than the labels that the world puts on them. Speak to who they were created to be.
Speak to your inside.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I actually came up with that.
Beautifully said.
I don't think that was me speaking. That was the little creator inside of me speaking.
Honestly, most of what we have said tonight has not, it's been coming from us, but again, like I touched on earlier, we're just the vessels that he's using to reach you, and hopefully it resonates with you. Hopefully it softens your heart a little bit or makes you curious to want to know more and follow along. And you'll be able to find us on pretty much anywhere you find podcasts, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and you can follow us on most socials, Instagram, TikTok, and just follow along with the journey. And hopefully as you follow this journey with us, we can hear about your journey. So please comment, give us feedback, what you liked, what you would like to hear about, questions you have about it. There will be episodes planned there are episodes planned in the future to answer listener questions and things like that. So just subscribe, like, comment, be interactive, and we'll get to you. We're also have plans to do like prayer request videos where you send us your prayer requests, and us and the rest of chat can pray for you. If we may end up getting a Discord started at some point, and thinking about potentially doing a Patreon so that people can see a bit more of the behind the scenes if it's something you're interested in. If it is, definitely let us know in the
unedited
comment.
versions of this. I'm really excited for this podcast and being able to edit it and produce it, and also pop in every now and again.
Yes.
And to be able to do it with the man, the myth, the legend, Hunter, that's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's the beginning of what I know will be an impactful journey. If this resonates with you, be sure to subscribe and tune in for more inspiring episodes, and get on the bus.
And it's not just about my story or the stories of the guests. This is about building the kingdom of God one story at a time, one relationship at a time. And hopefully you start to take that journey as you listen along and as you hear from more real people, hear more testimony of the life change that comes with that relationship. And I'm just excited that I get to do this with one of my best friends and one of the people that inspires me most. So it's going to be...
Stop.
No, I can't stop. Like if you guys, as this journey goes along and you get to know more of both of us, you'll see what I mean by just how inspirational Jacob is. And like even when he was talking about like the sticker on the back of his wheelchair, like for somebody to take situations like that and have like such a positive outlook on them is just inspirational. Like this man can't walk and a lot of us are taking it for granted, and this man rolls with it like a champ. So, pun intended. It wasn't originally, but pun intended. And I look forward to the next episode. I hope you guys follow along with it. The next episode is actually going to be me interviewing Jacob as we get to journey on his journey with God. And next week we get to talk about just faith in action as we talk about him and his life of rolling with faith. look forward to recording it with him. Look forward to getting to chat with him and pick his brain for a little bit and get this thing rolling. This has been Hunting Fate, because when you seek, you'll find.